Think of the happiest, most securely in love couples you know. Like the ones where it just seems completely effortless.
Yeah, the ones who make it look almost annoying, right?
Exactly. Now, what if I told you that their success might have absolutely nothing to do with luck or, perfect timing or even who they just happen to swipe right on?
Right, which is what we always assume.
Right. What if there's an exact, measurable blueprint to how human connection works? And right now, you might just be following the wrong instructions.
I mean, it is a massive paradigm shift. We are just so conditioned to view romance as this chaotic game of chance. You bump into someone at a coffee shop or you just happen to be at the same party and boom, your whole life changes.
Like a rom-com.
Exactly like a rom-com. And it is incredibly comforting to view love as random because, honestly, it absolves us of responsibility. If it's just the luck of the draw, we don't really have to examine our own role and why things aren't working out.
Well, that is exactly the illusion we are tearing down today. For this deep dive, we are looking at some truly fascinating insights distilled from a concept known as the soul's blueprint.
Yeah, and this isn't just based on some abstract theory either.
No, not at all. It originates from the work of Tina Aldea, who is a psychic, who has literally conducted thousands of intuitive relationship readings. And what is wild is that across all these thousands of readings spanning totally different cultures, ages, and backgrounds, she found that love is not random at all.
Not even a little bit.
She identified 7 distinct recurring patterns that govern how we find connection. Okay, let's unpack this, because if human connection is essentially architectural, we can actually learn how to build it.
Right. And before we can build anything new, we obviously have to look at the foundation. The first major phase of this blueprint deals entirely with why we get stuck in the past. It's what we might call the space equation.
The idea that meeting the right person really only happens after you genuinely let go of the wrong one. Which, I mean, when I first read this, my immediate thought was, well, obviously, you can't date 2 people at once.
Sure, the literal interpretation.
Yeah, but the concept of space here goes so much deeper than just your physical relationship status. I like to think of like a crowded closet, You simply cannot hang up a beautiful new winter coat if the rack is completely stuffed with old moth-eaten sweaters.
That is a perfect analogy.
It's about your cognitive and emotional bandwidth, because people stay intensely attached long after a physical breakup. They stalk their ex's social media, or they silently replay old arguments in the shower.
Oh yeah, we've all done the shower arguments.
Right, they just carry around this massive backpack full of resentments.
Because the nervous system is literally still actively running the software of that old relationship. Whether you look at this through like an energetic spiritual lens or a purely psychological one, your mental bandwidth is a finite resource.
It really is.
If your brain is constantly allocating processing power to an old, unresolved dynamic, you literally do not have the capacity to intake new romantic data. You are basically operating with a corrupted hard drive.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're running a massive background program of resentment, your battery is going to drain before you even make it to a first date.
Exactly.
But hold on, let me push back on that for a second. Is letting go just a passive waiting game? Do you just sit on your couch and wait for the sting to fade and hope the hard drive magically clears itself over time?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the mechanics of this blueprint bridge the spiritual and the psychological to answer that exact thing. Letting go is a fiercely active process.
Okay.
It is not just the passage of time. The blueprint indicates that true clearing requires an active extraction of data from the pain. You have to really accept the lesson that the failed relationship was trying to teach you.
You have to pull the meaning out of it.
Right. And you have to actively forgive, not to let the other person off the hook, but literally to close that open tab in your own brain. If you just try to passively wait it out without doing that internal audit, you trigger the second pattern in the blueprint.
Oh boy, the repetition loop.
The repetition loop. Life will present the exact same core lesson to you over and over until you finally learn it.
Oh man, the names change, the faces change, the cities change, but the core lesson remains infuriatingly identical.
Yeah.
We all know someone who constantly complains that they only attract narcissists, right? Or someone who keeps finding themselves in dynamics where they have to be the savior, doing all the emotional heavy lifting. It's literally the exact same script, just cast with different actors.
It is incredibly common to write that off as a curse or just, terrible luck in the dating pool. But what this framework suggests is that these recurring loops are actually developmental milestones. They're demanding your attention. It's essentially Freud's repetition compulsion wrapped up in a spiritual framework. If you continually find yourself with partners who are emotionally unavailable, the universe, or your own subconscious, depending on how you look at it, is putting up a massive billboard
Right, saying what?
saying you have an unresolved issue with your own self-worth and boundaries. The repetition itself is the teaching mechanism.
So the bad dates aren't punishments. They are pop quizzes you just keep failing.
Exactly. Until you actively diagnose your own blind spot. Once you recognize your role in the loop, the cycle finally breaks. You free up the bandwidth.
Okay, so the hard drive is wiped clean. The background programs of resentment are finally closed, and you've broken your toxic loop. You step back out into the world. But, nature abhors a vacuum.
It certainly does.
How do we ensure we don't just fill that newly emptied emotional closet with the exact same chunk? The blueprint says it all comes down to resetting the internal compass, which relies on two things: self-worth and intuition.
Let's start with self-worth. This is where the internal architecture really dictates the external reality. The blueprint dictates that the boundaries you set are a direct reflection of what you genuinely believe you deserve at your core.
Meaning that tolerating bad behavior isn't some sort of character flaw or a sign of weakness. It is just a mirror reflecting your own internal baseline.
Precisely.
If you secretly harbor the belief that you are unlovable or broken, you will unconsciously seek out partners who validate that terrible belief.
Because it is an unconscious calibration. The human brain craves congruency above almost everything else.
Yep.
We desperately want the outside world to match our inside beliefs.
Even if those beliefs are harmful.
Exactly. So if your internal self-worth is incredibly low and someone comes along who treats you with profound respect and genuine love, it actually feels jarring.
Oh, wow.
It feels unsafe or untrustworthy to your nervous system because it doesn't align with your self-image. So you unconsciously push that healthy person away and you gravitate right back toward the person who ignores you because their behavior feels familiar. It's congruent with how you view yourself.
That is devastating, but
Yeah.
so illuminating, because it means as your self-worth grows, your relationship choices literally have to improve. You just cannot tolerate the cognitive dissonance of being treated poorly anymore.
Right, it just stops being an option on the menu.
But self-worth is really only half of the compass. The other half is intuition. And in these thousands of readings Tina did, people constantly reported experiencing vivid dreams or repeated symbols and this unexplained sudden excitement right before a major romantic event occurred.
Because intuition operates so much faster than logic, logic requires tangible evidence, right? Which obviously takes time to gather. Intuition, on the other hand, reads subtle, energetic, and somatic signals that our conscious mind hasn't even fully processed yet.
I always think of intuition like a smartphone's background app. Like you aren't actively staring at the screen, but it is constantly running, taking in millions of data points from your environment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's tracking micro-expressions on a date's face or the tone of their voice, your own heart rate, subtle shifts in body language. The app processes all of that instantly and then sends you a push notification.
A gut feeling.
Exactly. A sudden gut feeling of danger or a sudden feeling of magnetic pull, you get that ping long before you ever open the conscious part of your brain to look at the hard facts.
And this raises an important question about how we fundamentally approach connection in the modern world. Just think about how we navigate dating today. We over-index so heavily on logic and tangible evidence.
That's completely.
We use apps that are basically literal checklists. Do they meet the height requirement? Do they have a stable job? What are their hobbies? What is their zip code?
We are constantly staring at the screen, just looking at the user manual instead of the person.
We are obsessing over the hard facts.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we routinely swipe away or completely ignore the push notifications from our own sophisticated data processing system. We rationalize away the red flags because the person looks great on paper.
Or we ignore a profound sense of connection just because the person doesn't fit our logical, predetermined criteria.
Exactly.
The critical takeaway there is how these two elements really have to work in tandem. Your self-worth sets the destination you believe you deserve to reach, but your intuition is the actual navigation system guiding you there. If you ignore either one, you end up lost.
You really do.
But, and this is a big but, you can have the highest self-worth in the world. You can have ironclad boundaries. You can be listening to every single intuitive push notification, and you still might be sitting there on a Friday night completely single, wondering why the blueprint isn't working for you.
Which brings us to the external factors, the elements of the blueprint that we just cannot control no matter how much internal work we do.
The uncontrollables. Even the most perfectly calibrated internal compass is subject to the weather outside, right? And In this framework, that whether is defined by timing and the spark of familiarity.
Let's look at timing first. The blueprint makes a very bold claim here. A delay is not a denial. Two incredibly compatible people can cross paths. But if one of them is in the middle of learning one of those hard developmental lessons we talked about earlier, the connection simply will not hold.
It just fizzles out.
Yeah. And we have this profound tendency to view those near misses or failed connections as wasted time. We look back and think, oh, I gave 3 years of my life to that person for absolutely nothing.
Such a common feeling.
But this architectural view of love reframes those past disappointments as vital preparation. You had to go through that specific delay, that specific heartache, to build the emotional capacity required for the lasting connection that is coming later. It is literally an emotional incubator.
Which perfectly sets the stage for what happens when the timing finally does align. When you are ready and they are ready, we hit the next pattern. Genuine soul connections feel intensely familiar. Across all these intuitive readings, people describe meeting their person and feeling an immediate, bizarre sense of having known them their entire lives. The conversation has zero friction. The comfort is just instantaneous. And here's where it gets really interesting. I want to throw a massive wrench into this idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
We just spent the first 10 minutes of this deep dive establishing that people get trapped in toxic loops because they are unconsciously drawn to familiar, unlearned lessons.
Yes, we did.
The brain seeks out what it knows. So if I meet someone new and my nervous system instantly feels at home and completely comfortable, couldn't that just be my trauma talking? How on earth is a person supposed to tell the difference between I've known your soul forever and you perfectly match my childhood wounds?
Oh, that is the most crucial distinction in modern psychology, and it requires profound somatic awareness. It really comes down to the texture of the familiarity in your physical body.
The text.
Yeah. The familiarity of an unlearned lesson, like a toxic loop or a trauma bond, is almost always anxiety-driven. It is a frantic, compulsive kind of magnetism. It feels like an adrenaline rush.
Okay.
You feel at home because your nervous system recognizes a threat that it knows how to manage. It's like getting on a roller coaster, is dangerous, but the spike in cortisol feels so familiar that you completely mistake it for passion.
Oh, man. It's butterflies, but the butterflies have teeth. It's just a chaotic pull.
Exactly. It is chaos masquerading as chemistry. On the flip side, the familiarity of a true aligned connection brings a profound sense of natural flow. The comfort develops quickly, sure, but it is grounded in peace, not panic.
Peace, not panic.
It regulates your nervous system rather than spiking it. You don't feel the need to perform. You don't feel that frantic urge to check your phone every 2 seconds to see if they texted back. It is a strong sense of recognition without that underlying hum of dread.
Peace versus panic. That is such a vital metric for anyone navigating the dating world right now.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains the necessity of the delays we just discussed. You almost always have to experience the anxiety-driven familiarity of a trauma bond enough times to finally build the contrast needed to recognize the peaceful familiarity when it finally arrives.
That makes so much sense.
You need the toxic loops to act as an incubator, teaching your nervous system what isn't right so it can eventually detect what is.
It's all prep work. Every bad date, every ghosting, every heartbreak, it's all just data training your intuition. Which leads us to the final piece of this puzzle. We've covered clearing your mental hard drive, calibrating your self-worth, trusting your subtle data processors, and, enduring the incubator of bad timing.
We've covered a lot.
We really have.
Yeah.
So what is the ultimate actionable takeaway for you listening to this right now? It all culminates in the ultimate paradox of love.
The paradox being that the conscious, desperate search for love is usually the very mechanism that pushes it away.
Yes. The inward journey is the outward path. The blueprint shows that lasting connection almost universally appears when people stop scanning the horizon for a savior and start focusing entirely on their own growth.
Right?
Healing their own blind spots, cultivating their own joy, and building a life they actually want to inhabit on their own. Becoming whole independently is the only thing that naturally aligns you with a partner who is also whole.
It completely inverts the standard romantic narrative of our culture. I mean, we are bombarded with this Jerry Maguire idea that we need to find someone to complete us, that we are just half of a whole, wandering the earth looking for our missing piece.
You complete me.
Exactly. This framework argues the exact opposite. If you are only half a person, you will only attract other fractions. You must complete yourself first. And only from that point of solid wholeness can you genuinely intersect with another whole person.
So what does this all mean? When you pull back and look at the sheer scale of these recurring patterns, it can feel a bit, well, overwhelming.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And knowing all of this, knowing that the timing is invisible, that intuition requires blind trust, and that you just have to focus on yourself, none of that actually stops us from wanting answers right now. The desire to know who is coming and when they are going to arrive is just a deeply ingrained human impulse. We all want a sneak peek at the script.
Which perfectly explains the immense, enduring popularity of intuitive services, like the psychic artist mentioned in our source material.
Right, Tina Aldea. People flock to her with these massive, vulnerable questions. Am I on the right track? What is my blind spot? Who am I looking for?
Yeah.
She uses a combination of psychic intuition and artistic interpretation to provide energy readings and even personalized sketches of a person's future soulmate.
Yeah.
And honestly, regardless of where anyone stands on the metaphysical spectrum, the psychological utility of a service like that is really fascinating. It provides this immense comfort and a tangible glimpse into an unfolding destiny.
Well, the psychological comfort is actually the mechanism that allows the blueprint to work. What people are really seeking when they commission a sketch or an intuitive reading isn't a shortcut. They are seeking inspiration.
Okay, say more about that.
If you look at the fundamental philosophy we've been unpacking, getting a glimpse of your future partner doesn't allow you to bypass the personal growth required by the final paradox.
Right, you can't just get a sketch of your soulmate, sit on your couch eating chips, and wait for them to knock on your front door. You still have to do the work.
Exactly. The value of that intuitive insight is to provide the stamina to continue the inward journey. When you are stuck in the incubator of bad timing, or when you are actively trying to clear out a painful resentment, it is exhausting.
It really is.
Having a physical representation of what you are working toward offers a really unique perspective. It encourages you to stay the course, to keep trusting those subtle intuitive nudges, and to not just settle for the anxiety-driven trauma bonds out of sheer loneliness. It is a tool for reflection, not a cheat code for the universe.
It gives you the hope required to keep building the architecture. That is an incredible way to frame it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden blueprint of human connection. Hopefully, this paradigm shift gives you a brand new lens to look through the next time you reflect on your own romantic history.
I hope so too.
Take some time today to genuinely audit your own cognitive bandwidth. Are you running old, corrupted relationship software in the background? And more importantly, are you swiping away those subtle, intuitive push notifications just because someone looks good on paper?
It requires a profound, often uncomfortable level of honesty with oneself to really answer those questions.
It really does. It's heavy lifting. And we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day, building on this idea of the soul's architecture. If love is truly just a mirror, reflecting our internal self-worth back to us, and if the path to finding it is paved entirely by our own personal transformation, then perhaps every single person you interact with today isn't just a random extra in the movie of your life.
From your closest friend to a difficult coworker, to the stranger bagging your groceries. Maybe every interaction is serving as a micro-lesson, a tiny mirror reflecting your current capacity for boundaries and your current level of self-love right back at you. The blueprint isn't just about finding a soulmate. It's happening all day, every day, in every conversation. The only question is, are you reading the data they're giving you?